All right, then. So there you go. We're going to go right in and get a look at the perspective on what is going on. Well, not just in Abuja, in different parts of the country, actually. So that's where you get to see the state of the polity. The National Assembly have got a huge role to play. At first, there's a PIB going on there, the public hearing, then that scenario, hopefully, if they have an opinion or two. And then they're going to talk about, they're looking at the COVID-19 funds as well, in terms of what has happened, how should all of these things play, and the questions about COVID vaccines. So there's just so much on their plate as well.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we're looking forward to resumption in a couple of days. So,
yeah.
I mean, I imagine that their desks should be filled with a lot of files which they have to look into. I mean, like you mentioned, COVID-19. I mean, we're not sure when the vaccines will come, but don't forget the National Assembly has a huge role to play. And in security, I mean, they've talked about security time and again, so...
One of the huge roles of the National Assembly in this COVID-19 vaccine thing is budgeting for the vaccine itself. You remember when we had that conversation that you referenced over and over again? People are wondering, because first of all, there is no provision in the budget passed so far for the vaccines. And we need to find that money wherever it is going to come from. The government is targeting something in the region of 70% of the people to vaccinate. Prioritize government officials, prioritize...
Well, not prioritize government officials, really. I mean, I think that statement was just made by Kant. Government officials shouldn't be priority.
No. Well, that is... It's not prioritize like that, but show leadership of sorts. We are saying that medical practitioners should be the first to go. That's fantastic, but that's just one of several issues in the day. So,
well, and don't forget, are they happy now with the cold chain we've got? Who knows? And there's no way we can forget the Electoral Act. There's just so much, but I'm not sure we'll have all of that time to look at all those issues. But we've got our hands full this morning.
Well, it looks like a buffet, and I'm sure that the members I have in the studio are very capable. They're capable of chewing on all of them. I have with me Honorable Yunusa Ahmad Abubakar, who's a member of the APC. He's a member House Committee on Loans, AIDS, and Debt Management. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I also have with me Honorable Nkema Bonta, who is a member of the PDP, and also former Chairman House Committee on Public Petition. You're welcome, Honorable. Well, they keep increasing the list of things for us to chew on this morning. And I've said both of you gentlemen look very capable to me. The first thing, which popped up while we were reviewing the papers is the big lead headline on the front page of Nigerian Tribune, which says, reps to begin probe of 83.9 billion naira COVID-19 funds. This is aside the 10 billion, I think, which the Joint House and Senate Committee on Health recently invited the Minister of Health to come and explain, which they said was not approved for vaccine alone. So it looks like the House seems to be beaming a searchlight on the funds that have been provided to fight COVID-19, both in terms of health provisions and also in terms of vaccine. What has prompted this? Do you want to quickly give a response to that? Are you aware of this? And if you are, what has prompted it?
Oh, well, we are yet to resume plenaries. We're told we'll resume on the 9th. But be it as it may, in Nigeria, COVID came to become a huge business. It became something that the ordinary man couldn't understand. It became something the ordinary man felt exploited. From the beginning of the COVID till now, we only hear billions of naira, and we can't really virtually see or say exactly how this fund went. At the point we are told that states must declare COVID all whatnots to get some billions. Kogi is an example, the politics there about the COVID-19 and all whatnot. So if 80-point-something billion cannot be accounted for, then rest must actually in the usual manner inquire into it. I pray that at the end of the inquiry, the result and the findings should be made public.
So you are aware of the probe that's about to...
I am not aware of it. It's something, I'm aware that there's a lot of funny things happening around COVID fund and the operators of the COVID fund. I'm aware that people became billionaires out of COVID proceeds, out of COVID transactions. You saw what happened during the palliative scandal and scramble. So these are all, the whole chain going on. And I pray that a stop or a control should be put to it. We should not use COVID fund at the expense of those who should get the COVID. If you go out there, most people will tell you, we don't believe in COVID because it's business. Government are trying to do business. Because they're also seeing COVID-related funds being used in a manner to benefit very few and not to treat actually the sickness, the virus. If we continue this way, then COVID may not leave us at all because people distrust the operators of stopping COVID. People don't have belief in them because of the way the funds are being used, because of the management of the COVID and the information regarding COVID. So we should change tactics. We should say something. I must urge reps to please not just doing the paperwork by writing the paper, to go deep down and let the public get the result. Let the public know what actually the findings are. They should not just disappear like a tea party. There must be a result in it. Otherwise, we shouldn't even start at all.
Which is very laudable advice. However, it's very worrisome too. If, everything, nothing is sacred anymore. The fact that, a lot of Nigerians did have their fears when COVID broke out, and how government was going to handle it in a manner they thought would be transparent, in a manner that engendered confidence, in a manner that was not business as usual, so to speak. So when we begin to see reps probing 89-point-something billion naira COVID-19 funds today, last week it was House and Senate Committee on Health probing or asking questions around 10 billion naira, which they said was not just for vaccines alone. There are huge questions as to, is it, what exactly is going on? Are we operating without transparency, especially around an illness that, is raising a lot of skepticism amongst Nigerians? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was just listening to my colleagues, and that is really very, very disturbing. In fact, to say disturbing is an understatement. You've just said it. We are the people's representative. This is the perception of the people. And if the arms of the executive fail, the perception is wrong, then they should prove otherwise. And hence, appreciate the fact that we have been on a long recess. Prior to the recess, we were busy with the 2021 budget to be put in place. So the attention that was given to a lot of oversighting following the plenary procedures has been a little bit, delayed, and all attention has been shifted to the budget. By the time we finish the budget, we have to go on recess for the Christmas and the New Year. We are about to resume 20-something January, then this issue of the APC registration came and we were extrapolated to 9 February. Even that 9 February, we are not even sure, because that very day, the House was postponed to 9 February. The same APC timetable changed. It is just more or less starting now. So we are not even sure when. But the earlier we resume, the better. Even if we have to call and open and resume sitting just to investigate this phenomena. The issue of the 10 billion is even there, which was an acronym for the vaccine. And now, from the hearing at the Senate, you start hearing that it's not for vaccine alone. Then, now this issue of over getting to 90 billion to be spent. And throughout, just like my colleague have said, we have been observing. And forget about what we observed, but what we filtered in from our constituents. The concern about so many funds enormously that has been going into this COVID-19 led somebody to really has a kind of question mark in the whole scenario, just like everybody says. In fact, for you to start even saying that there is something sneaky, fishy that is going on all this process, I think is like an understatement. But it is now the issue, who will investigate that? And this is one of the primary responsibility, especially of the Congress, House of Representatives. And I think we are now belt tied to see that we see this thing to the end. We must see what is the devil bedeviling this scenario. And I think, just like my colleague have said, the earlier the better. Let it not just be paperwork. We should go nitty-gritty. In fact, if we will suspend everything, the 2020 budget has been gone. They have been extended the capital to maybe sometime around March. So we are yet for them to finish so that we go for that oversighting. But this issue of COVID-19, look at what happened in the United States. The moment the new president took over, he swung into actions. So I think we should pay due diligence and credence to this issue of the COVID-19. The earlier we nip it in the bud, the better.
Well, it's already out of the bud. This COVID-19 is now a flower in full bloom. However ugly the flower looks, you know, this is where we are. I mean, as a country, different states are adopting different approaches. The PTF constantly briefing. Just yesterday, you know, they talked about states that are high risk, even local governments that are high risk, and we're seeing responses to that. So COVID is in one basket, but it's very closely related to the security of Nigerians, because if COVID isn't threatening their lives, you have security, which, you know, came into sharp relief over the holiday season. You had bandits on the prowl. Kidnapping was rife. People, you know, did not feel quite safe traveling the roads. A lot of people preferred to go by air, those who could afford it, that is. But a lot of people just stayed put. And then all the stories that were filtering in was not very encouraging. So again, you know, there were questions as to what exactly was happening when it came to security. Just not too long after, we now saw the president change service chiefs, you know, after years, or should we say months, for the call for the removal of the service chiefs. Just wondering now, I don't know whether to use that song. Now that we have love, what are we going to do with it? Now that we've seen change of the service chiefs, what should we be expecting? Do you really think that it really makes a huge difference? Because some people are saying it's the same equipment they're going to be working with. What major thing is going to change? What are your thoughts on that, Honorable?
Well, if you ask me, the change of service chiefs, we could say, is a welcome development, even though belated. We expect a lot from the new service chiefs, but can they give what they don't have? I want to suggest through your medium that we should call a very, very emergency security summit of the critical stakeholders of this area. We should go back to board. I expect the new service chiefs to go back to board and produce a new security architecture for us. Within the next 2 months, we should begin to see changes. So it doesn't be like a change of bad thing. It shouldn't be like the same person doing the same thing. You see, one thing we want them to do is to inject new ideas in our security system. We should inject ideas. They should make us believe that the government is serious in fighting insurgents and bringing security. After all, that was the cardinal point of their campaign, security.
So at some point, you actually did lose hope, or you impression that government wasn't serious in fighting Boko Haram?
You don't need a soothsayer to say that or to know it. Yeah, you and me will know that the seriousness in fighting Boko Haram is between the 0 to 10, you put it at 4. Because one, it's a war. The Boko Haram are facing battle there. Our colleagues from that side can't go home. They can't. Boko Haram have even put their flags in some local governments, meaning that they've claimed those territories. And we are assured that the just relieved chief of staff will not return until he conquers. Did he conquer before he returned? It's a big war. But we must put all the necessary support, because without peace, we can't progress. Without security, we can't do nothing. It's a very serious issue, and we should take it as being serious. We should take it so. I will plead with our dear presidents to do all he could to do that. A long time ago, there was a ban not to give us, sell arms to us. But I think now they've relaxed it a bit. We should also budget and get new arms. Apart from that, we should be sure that the service chiefs also know what to do. We must also boost the morale of our soldiers. If you look at their morale, they are low. If going by social media is anything to be used at all, at the relief of service chiefs, we saw all over the media, even military men jubilating. So is there something we do not know that is going on there? We should think, and we think and do think seriously that new ideas should go in there. If possible, funding. I know that during budget, we always give them enough money to do the needful. You see, we should also not just investigate. We should make sure that the money used for security should be used, budgeted for security should be properly used for security. Why are we having obsolete equipment? Why is the Boko Haram having a better equipment? Now, I also read that we're negotiating to pay 160-something billion or thereabout to Boko Haram to stop insurgents. Is that the best approach? After paying their money, will they stop? Or will they use it to update their own equipment at our detriment? A whole lot of questions. I saw the security chief saying today that they are aware of the expectations from them. I hope he really understands the expectation and say they will add value. He should not only add value, he should add real value to what we have. We need to see that in the shortest possible time because the insecurity is spreading.
You say real value. Could there be fake value?
Of course, there are fake values. There are fake values. There are paper and TV, social media values. These are the fake values. You tell us what is not real. Oh, Boko Haram is conquered. It's fake value. When we know they are there. Oh, Boko Haram is no more. Oh, they will be wiped away in 2 days' time when they are actually dealing with us. So we want to see that the residents of those areas, Northeast, can relax, can go home freely, can work, can add value. Part of the reason we have food shortage today is the insurgents, is the insecurity. Part of the reasons that the economy is not stable today is insecurity. It's affecting foreign investments, even in internal investment. Are you going to tell me not to go to Northeast to invest? It's difficult. Even to do a proper legislative work oversight there is near impossible. So you can see what we're suffering from.
It's a very complex issue, Honorable, and it looks like the security chiefs have their work cut out for them. I do know that in the House, one of the issues that members had raised, especially members from that particular area, was the issue of super camps. They wanted the super camps dismantled and figured that, one of the reasons why the attacks seemed to be on the increase was because these super camps had sprung up. Do you think that the military chiefs will be changing their strategy anytime soon with regards to that issue of super camps?
Well, the issues are so many, but be it as it may. That suffice to say that I belong to the House committee, this 9th Assembly Committee on Defense. So I'm very, very much, to some extent, conversant with the situation. We should have hope. At least there is green light at the end of the tunnel, not just ordinary light, but green. Suffice to say, you see, like I said, we have been on recess. Much activities have not been there. We have been reading a lot of things on newspapers. But it is an open knowledge that during the January 1st broadcast of Mr. President, and I think assenting the budget, he made a speech which is quite extraordinary for the president to have made a speech on the New Year Day. He has not been doing that. What catches is this issue of this security. He did promise that they will see the end of this insurgency, banditry, name it, by the end of this year. And probably pursuant to his promise, we can see, though belated, like my colleague have said, the changing of the service chiefs. And from the look of things, he might have picked a square peg, in a square hole. Erabo and the other, what is his name?
The Chief of Army Staff?
Is the Chief of Army Staff, yes. They were there. They served previously as theater commanders. and I think Erabo maybe took over from the present chief of army staff, something like that. So they are very conversant with the issue. And I'm telling you, if the Boko Haram terrorism has been tamed, all other issues in form of security like banditry will be tamed. Because it is now an evident knowledge, this banditry, especially in the northern part, which has escalated now to the southern part, especially the southwest, is an extension of the Boko Haram. They've changed tactics. I'm not supposed to discuss their security, their strategy, but maybe it might impair the security. But it is an open knowledge that even those people who engage in this kidnapping, they are like errand boys of the Boko Haram. They trade the victim with the Boko Haram. Instead of Boko Haram coming doing the kidnapping themselves, because of all the security barrier, they might not move freely. Then any other citizen that move freely does the kidnapping and negotiate. Because we have a victim, even in the National Assembly, our imam, though a staff but acting as the imam, you know, so was actually kidnapped from here by southern, I don't want to accept it, but to tell you how the syndicate operate, by people who cannot even speak Hausa language, so they are not even from the north. They kidnap him in the night, blindfolded him from Zuba, drive through Kano, whatever, until they reach the Boko Haram camp. The moment they arrived there, those people that came were settled. He has some money in his car, and they went with his car. Those people that brought him handed over to the Boko Haram. He is evidently believed that because they are there doing their religious, which is similar to the Islamic practice, so you don't need any associate to tell you that it is a Boko Haram camp. So you can see the syndicate. Just to elaborate that, so they are interconnected. Now, taming the Boko Haram, it is there. Even the host governor, I think Professor Zulum, has welcomed and he has seen changes within this. The issue now is that my bone of contention, I was thinking that the House being the majority APC, they should have called an emergency sitting, even if need be, to confirm the service chiefs with an immediate speed of a light. I was thinking that we should, but I'm very astonished that the House was not reconvened to have just, clear them and pass them. Now the service chief, they have to start action. So I was thinking the executive and the National Assembly leadership should have been in tandem.
Yeah, but they can start with, they can start as acting, can't they?
They have started actually. They have started. I've even moved down to Maiduguri, so
yes,
I learned.
Indeed.
No, but like what I'm saying, the public to understand that the House should have acted even faster and higher than this. So we knew the pressure that we put on this changing of this service chief at when due. But nevertheless, just like we saw some people jubilating, especially some naval officers. It is naval or Air Force officers, they were jubilating of the change of the, meaning that goes to tell you that even within themselves, something is wrong. They have either overstayed and we need new bread. But with Erabo and the Chief of Air Staff, I think Erabo is Chief of Defense Staff.
Yes, he is.
With them now, and with the issue that probably, I think this year is the time for the Tucano aircraft to arrive. And
2021.
with some other sophisticated weapons that they have gathered, just like we said, we cannot discuss their strategy, security, and the media. But I believe we have now not just hope to sell, but hope that we can rely upon.
Well, scoring 25 out of 100 points and the latest ranking of Transparency International, it's not very good news for Nigeria, even deepened further in the ranking, I think to 149 position. Some people are saying, what's going on with the fight against corruption? Are we really on with this fight, or we have given up hope on it? Let me quickly take you up, Honorable.
This issue of CPI, it is the Corruption Perception Index.
Yeah.
See, the issue of corruption in Nigeria, in my own terms, I categorize, we have what we call macro and micro. And I think now the micro corruption is the one that is eating deep. We have not yet put in place machineries to checkmate this micro corruption.
So in other words, it's not a surprise to you.
It's not a surprise to me, actually.
The ranking is no surprise to you.
The ranking
and
is
it's very much in order.
Well, it is in order in the sense that this is the perception. You know, we have to understand the methodology and the philosophy behind the CPI scenario by Transparency International in Germany. Even the United States, in this rating, they have shifted ground negatively. So until we understand the nitty-gritty of the Corruption Perception Index, how they gather their data, then we might not live to appreciate.
Yeah, but you, as an ordinary Nigerian, well, you're not an ordinary Nigerian, but just looking on, you know, from your perspective.
No, I'm really disturbed about the corruption. Was it not just a while ago when we were discussing the COVID negative, you know, perception about it? It is the issue of corruption.
The presidency has responded. They say that this is, it's a verdict on Nigerians, not Buhari. What do you make of that, Honorable Abonta?
That is a kind of shifting attention and tactics. So my friend Eunice is a very honest man. There's no machinery put in place to check this corruption, be it micro or macro. You see, the machinery put in place, if at all, to fight corruption is non-existent. The operators of the government, let me say so, are playing deep in the corruption matter.
You agree with him?
The
just quickly.
perception.
I agree.
You see, another honest man, though, even the APC, but he's the real progressive in India. You see, if you look at the perception outside, you don't need a rocket science to know the corruption status of Nigeria. You pick it from the streets as you walk. The lives of the people, the feelings of the people, the action of the people will tell you all you need to do. No matter whichever index they used to pick the corruption level, they are right. But I want to agree that Nigerians are also, out of frustration, are involved. The person who does corruption in the Wuse market was not sent by Buhari, but it was a result of the bigger corruption of somebody sitting somewhere big to deny him what is due him. The gate man who does some collections illegally to do certain things was not sent by Buhari, but the man who should provide for the gate man had taken all. He has nothing to do left over but to catch whosoever is available. So, Nigeria remains corrupt, and until the system changes, it's unfortunate we found ourselves in a government now that have no clue, no idea to fight, or who do not want to fight corruption. Because a lot of corruption matters had come before this present government that has been swept under the carpet. You just mentioned one now, something billions and other. This is something that should be treated like COVID itself.
The three issues that we've raised this morning, only one of them speaks to the matter of hope or change, which is the fact that the service chiefs have been changed. But even that, you know, security situation remains very dire. I'm wondering, you know, we're in a new year. It's the second day of February in this new year. It seems to be running pretty fast. I'm wondering, what are your expectations in the three critical areas that we have mentioned? COVID-19 made it into this new year. Security is still on the front burner. And looking at the matter of corruption, it looks like we're losing hope in that regard. What are your thoughts? I mean, when you're talking to your constituency, for instance, to say, yes, I'm in government, but I believe that things can be better. Because if you lose hope and you're in government, you know, what should the people hang on to?
If you say it looks like we're losing hope, I will ask you, we never had hope in the system. At the beginning, it is a government that took more than 1 year to boost.
Is that because you're in the PDP?
Oh, well, maybe if you think so. Not because I'm in PDP, because I'm looking at the totality of the feelings of the people. What we are praying is for hope to come. What we are praying is for the change to come. Not that we are losing it. We are praying for it.
For the government, from this government?
Well, somebody said it's not too late. The Jega, the former chairman of INEC, prayed and lamented and said, we are disappointed, but we are praying that within the 2 years left that he can still make an amendment. That's from him.
Is that your prayer as well, Honorable?
Well, it is, but the prayer could be modified to have saying we need more action. Let it do more upon what they are doing. Because you see, to even sustain a system is something else. That the system did not collapse, we should give kudos to the anchorers of the, of the system. Two, when we talk about just let me quickly say, when the president says it is the Nigeria's rating, I agree with him, because we are looking at the corruption at the federal level. What of the 774 local governments? Is this Buhari that oversees them, the corruption that is taking place there? What of the 36 states of the federation? Is this the federal government that oversees the corruption under the nose of the governors? So, and this CPI takes all, it is in total. So, you see, the federal level is there, and then the one at the state and then at the local government. Then talk less of even in the marketplace. Your common gate man, when he is bribed, he will allow people to kill you. So the issue generally is that the government is trying, but like we said, and the APC government, considering how it took and where the country was, I think they have tried. Our foreign reserve is growing. We have not given an account of the excess crude account yet, but at least our foreign reserve is within the range of 36 or thereabout. And with all these things put in place, I agree with my brother. I am from the APC. Yes, we are booting gradually. It is the system. But we hope when we boot finally, we should boot well.
Well, it's a prayer.
But
Maybe
he entered an area.
Maybe we should say amen to that. Honorable.
No, I won't say him. He entered an area that I said that we are grateful that it didn't collapse from what they had. I agree. We handed over something very, very healthy to them. We are grateful that it had not died, but it's about to. So we want to do something.
We will not leave here today. We'll continue this conversation. But we have to thank both of you for coming on Sunrise City this morning. Honorable Yunusa Ahmad Abubakar is a member of the APC and member House Committee on Loans, AIDS and Debt Management. And Honorable Nkema Bonta is a member of the PDP, a former chairman House Committee on Public Petition. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise City this morning. Well, that's it for this segment. We already have another segment on standby. It's over now to you, Chamberlain.
Declaration by the governor of Nasarawa State when he visited the presidency that there is a deployment of Boko Haram insurgents to the boundary between Benue and Nasarawa states. As a result of this, we in Benue State, using our security agencies, decided to swing into action to find out the truth or otherwise of that declaration. Of course, given the exalted position that the governor of Nasarawa State occupies, we have no doubt at all, no reason whatsoever to doubt his declaration. In the meantime, while we are still investigating, we've been able to ascertain the fact that there appears to be a massive deployment of herdsmen with their cattle on the brink of River Benue, but on the bank, on the Nasarawa State bank. And we also observed that a good number of these herdsmen are heavily armed, many of them with AK-47 rifles. As if this was not enough, we've been able to apprehend a good number of them in a village called Casio in Guma local government of Benue State. On the 23rd of January, 156 cows belonging to these herdsmen were apprehended. And on the 26th of this month, another 220 cows were apprehended from the same vicinity. And it was observed that the herdsmen were not the ordinary herdsmen because they were heavily armed. Of course, their cows, in keeping with the anti-open grazing law of Benue State, were apprehended and brought to the enclosure where we put them here, as you can see behind me. Now, I want to make it very clear that Benue State is a unit of the federating structure of Nigeria. And this unit, like all other units, are governed by laws of the state. Benue State has its own laws, one of which is the anti-open grazing law. We have been keeping to this law. As a result, we've been able to apprehend all the people that violated the laws.
Well, yes, we do have the Deputy Governor joining us now to shed some light on some of what you just heard there. It's Mr. Benson Abuonu, the Deputy Governor of Benue State. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Those were really serious matters that you have raised there about the information that came to you after the security meeting in the state about herdsmen who you say were deployed and they are heavily armed. First of all, could you tell us, when was this discovered after the Security Council meeting? When was this?
Well, thank you very much for having me. As a matter of fact, all this started when the governor of Nasarawa State made the statement that he made when he visited the president. And that was what actually pushed us to hold a Security Council meeting. And in the Security Council meeting, of course, as usual, we took briefs from all the security agencies. And the finding as at then, I cannot say, or we could not say precisely whether or not the people that were the boundaries between Benue and Nasarawa states were actually Boko Haram insurgents. But what we found out at the time was that we had a massive number of herdsmen with so many cattle on the brink of the river. And as I talk to you, some of them are still on the bank of the river on the Nasarawa State side, overlooking Agatu local government area. And I know it has been their intention to cross over because we have a very rich fadama in Agatu local government area, and this is the place of choice for herdsmen to graze their cattle. We also have a good number of them overlooking Guma local government area. And as I told you, it is because of the alert that we got from the governor of Nasarawa State that necessitated the meeting that we held. And so that is what happened. And as I talk to you, we are still investigating. We have not yet gotten additional information as to whether or not Boko Haram insurgents are at the boundary of Benue and Nasarawa states.
Now, a couple of things coming up there. After that meeting, because one wonders, what is it that could have informed that movement after the meeting? What was said then? And then when you say they were deployed, was it also as a result of that meeting? Who could have deployed them?
How could it have been as a result of the meeting? Of course, the herdsmen deployed themselves there. We all know that they do not have houses or residences in Benue or in Nasarawa State. These are people that are homeless, so to say. And we know that they have come from the far north. We've been told in the past that they are not even Nigerians, that they have come from neighboring countries. They are nomads, and because perhaps of desert encroachment and other weather hazards, they decided to come to the place of choice, as I said. We're in a vegetative area in Benue State, and that is why they keep coming. And whoever their masters must have deployed them, because you will agree with me that herdsmen are not necessarily the owners of the cattle. The herdsmen are usually employees of the owners of the cattle. And clearly, it's those owners that must have deployed them down here. That's precisely what I meant.
So have you notified any of the security authorities, maybe the DSS, the presidency, about this findings from Security Council meeting?
The security agencies are all aware, and they are the ones that have even been feeding us with the information. Of course, they have their leaders and their bosses in Abuja, and they make daily reports to their headquarters. So I can say that Abuja is aware. It is the duty, of course, of the headquarters to let the presidency know. But it is not strange at all that we have these herdsmen surrounding the eastern axis of Benue State and down to the southern part in Agatu area. So honestly, I think this is a fact that is known to everybody.
Well, when you say that you have been told by some sources that they are from outside of Nigeria, and they are right now located between Nasarawa and Benue State, I'm wondering how long it took them to migrate and how come government wasn't aware of this? Because if we look at the map of Nigeria, before any country, anyone can come in from the north of Nigeria into Benue State, the person will have to pass through at least 3 states, Katsina, Kano, and Kaduna, before they will get into Nasarawa and then Benue State. So from your findings, do you have any idea what the pattern of their travel is and how come we didn't know this ahead of time?
Well, number one, I cannot speak for the security agencies, particularly the DSS, but it is a known fact. It is known to all Nigerians that herdsmen are nomadic in nature. And every day you see them from one area of Nigeria to another. Only day before yesterday, I was reading a report that cited the governor of Kano State, who himself is a hardcore Fulani person, and who reasons on the issue of Fulani herdsmen clashing with farmers very dispassionately. He's somebody I'm so proud of whenever he talks about what to do with herdsmen and their cattle. You know, we should be dispassionate about this, and there should be no emotional attachment. We have a national crisis that borders on the lives of Nigerians. And that is why we in Benue State, we passed the anti-open grazing law, which aims primarily at separating the business of rearing cattle and animal husbandry as a whole from crop production. Because if you rear cattle, for example, in an enclosure, it means the cattle will not sway into farmlands to destroy the crops of farmers, which ordinarily is always responsible for the clash between farmers and herders. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that everybody sees them, and therefore, when you see them, because they say they have a right, a fundamental, constitutionally approved right to head their cattle from one part of Nigeria to the other. People see them. And so it's not a matter of not knowing ahead of time. We see them every day and they move around. But when they come, and they come in very large numbers, and the herders themselves are armed, that is where the problem is. And that is where we are concerned. That is the security aspect of what we are talking about.
Well, that leads to this question, Your Excellency, the fact that historically, I mean, herdsmen only carried staff and sticks and all of that to guard their cattle wherever it is that they go. But with herdsmen in large numbers going around with heavy arms such as AK-47, it's indicative in a way some failure of intelligence on the part of the DSS. Would you say it is a failure of intelligence on the part of the DSS?
I would not. No, I would not say that at all. And I am telling you this from an informed position. Having been a deputy chairman of Security Council for 5.5 years now, I can tell you that the DSS has always been discharging its duties diligently. But the follow-up is the issue, especially when crimes are seen to have been committed and nothing seriously appears to happen in terms of booking, bringing to book the perpetrators of the crime. And so people therefore tend to continue to commit the crimes with ignominy. This is where the problem is. The information has always been there. The follow-up, I would say, is a problem.
So, I mean, a lot of issues stick out. First, in terms of follow-up, at whose table is this follow-up and what are they meant to do, specifically now?
You're asking me a question I believe you know the answer to.
But you've not answered the question still.
If you want me to say, the internal security of any nation lies with the police. It lies with the police. And I can even tell you that it does not lie with the military. But of course, if the police is overstretched and appears to be overwhelmed, especially in terms of numbers and equipment, then of course the commander-in-chief of the country can ask for help from the military, which is exactly what has been happening in Nigeria.
Okay. I mean, now that that is cleared, you mentioned something really vital to all of this. I mean, you started by, referencing the governor of Nasarawa State, his visit to the nation's capital, to the president, the statement he made about Boko Haram at the borders. And now you say that those herdsmen are overlooking Benue State. You mentioned Agatu, Guma local government areas that share, I mean, that's the border with Nasarawa State, basically saying that the Nasarawa State government has a major role to play in this. So I believe there has been some form of interface. What are you telling the Nasarawa State government? What do you expect them to do with these herdsmen?
Well, let me tell you one good thing about all this. In the previous administration of Nasarawa State, we interfaced a number of times with that administration. 2 times we held what we called dual state security meetings, that is interstate security meetings. And the entire Security Council of Nasarawa State, the entire members, and the entire members of the Security Council of Benue State held joint meetings, one in Nasarawa State, another one in Benue State, and we held a number of other meetings between our security agencies. The idea was to synergize and work together, because the truth is, if Benue is fighting the criminality arising from herdsmen and farmers, and Benue is doing it alone without the support of Nasarawa State, obviously there will be no success. Because if they are driven away from here, they will find succor in Nasarawa State and vice versa. And therefore, what needs to happen is, if the criminals know that they have no place to run to, then it will be very easy to handle them. And so we've been doing that. In the present administration, not quite 2 months after Governor Sule took office, he called for a joint Security Council meeting. And we held that meeting in the border town of Yelewata in Benue State. And all the Security Council members, even plus traditional rulers, were present. And some very, very vital decisions were taken. And we made it very clear. In fact, Governor Sule made it very clear to the people present that Benue State has a law on anti-open grazing, and that nobody should use Nasarawa State as a launching pad to go and commit crimes in Benue. And that helped a lot. But you see, even though our law in Benue State has tremendously succeeded in keeping at bay the clashes between farmers and herders, we still have rudiments, and people crossing over and causing problems here and there, of course, on a limited level till today. And that is why when we heard him saying that Boko Haram insurgents have massed themselves at the bank, or rather at the boundary of Benue and Nasarawa State, we got worried because we have been enjoying some relative peace, and we don't want to go back to what happened in 2017 and 2018.
Well, Your Excellency, listening to you, many are getting that impression that it appears as though the police is looking the other way while all of these things happen, while they go around with AK-47, because normal citizens, you cannot, you should not. If you're found with an AK-47, you will be arrested. So, having talked about how impressed you are with Kano State Governor, the meeting that was held, Nasarawa State Governor briefing the president, is it a bad idea, or do you think that perhaps one of the next steps should be this discussed at the NGF so that governors can collectively, since different states are having some challenges with this, is this something that you think it should be tabled at the Governors Forum meeting so that they can come to a solution and agree on how to proceed with this? Because, I mean, it was reported that the president met with some governors and they said, well, people should obey the laws.
Well, let me clear and let me correct one impression. The police have not been looking the other way, and I never said so. But I can assure you that the police are trying their best. The unfortunate situation is that the police is overstretched. I don't need to say this. Everybody knows it. The number is not there. Even the number of the personnel is not enough. If I tell you that in a whole local government, you will have just about 5 police officers, some 10, you'll be surprised. This is where the problem is. So they're overstretched. As you are calling on one police officer to tackle one issue here, 10 other issues are taking place elsewhere that require his attention. And that is why he cannot cope. Of course, I'm happy that the presidency is rising up to this, because 2 years or so back, 10,000 were recruited. And I understand there's another process of recruitment going on now. That's the way to go about it. But having said that, yes, I am very impressed with the governor of Kano State, because dispassionately he said, please stop this nomadic nature of the movement of cattle from the north to the south. Find a place of abode for them and let them do modern business of animal husbandry. In other words, ranching, which is what Benue has been advocating since 2016, and which is working fairly well in Benue. The ranches in Benue may not be first class international, but they serve the purpose. There is an enclosure, you put the cattle there, and then you go and look for their feed and bring to them. Of course, they have advantages, because as the cattle don't move about, they are not fatigued. They put on more flesh, and they produce more milk. and he put more money on the hands of the breeders. And so I am very, very, very impressed with Governor Ganduje. I've had personal discussions with him in the past. And I remember one day he told me he tended to cattle for about 9 years, even before he went to school. He's a full-bred Fulani person. And so he understands that business. And he knows the difference between this nomadic nature and modern way of breeding cattle. I think we should listen to him, and I think the authorities should listen to him. Well, now, coming to the Nigerian Governors Forum, which you talked about, I will not be telling you the truth if the matter had not been tabled before the forum before. Especially the security issues arising from herdsmen, farmers clashes. These are issues that have been discussed a number of times at the Nigerian Governors Forum. And that is why you have some concerted efforts in trying to put to rest some of the crises.
Yeah, Your Excellency, part of what we're trying to raise is because, I mean, people will get feedback from everywhere. And part of what they were suggesting is that the impression they get is such that, I mean, if they saw all over the dailies that the police issued an order to certain persons following that fracas and misunderstanding, according to the NGF, that the press misrepresented the message from Ogun, on those states. But they haven't equally seen the same approach in arresting persons who are moving around with AK-47. That's the impression they get.
Yeah, what exactly are you asking of me now?
Because at the moment, perhaps you should tell us, how is the Benue State Police Command responding to this? Did you make any arrest of any of those people other than the cows that were arrested?
Very well, very well. If you watched, the clip that you showed of me at the beginning of this session, I don't think you went to that extent, but I did mention that of 356 cows were apprehended, and that 6 herdsmen who were armed were arrested and handed over to the police for prosecution. The police in Benue has done a pretty good job, especially in keeping our anti-open grazing law. A good number had been arrested in the past. They were given very fair trial, and some of them were sent to correctional centers, while others paid fines. And as of today, we also have the livestock guards that are all over the place to ensure that you only breed your cattle in ranches in Benue. And those who flouted the law have always been arrested, and if they paid the fine, they were let go. But those who did not pay the fine, and especially if they also committed other crimes, then they're handed over to the police, and the police has done a pretty good job by prosecuting them.
Well, when you say that they are currently at the banks overlooking the area, that will certainly raise a lot of concern to people who are living around those areas and even in those states and even the country at large. So at the moment, have those, because you equally said that people, the owners of the cows, employ those herdsmen to move around. Has there been anyone who claimed to own those cows reach out to yourself or the Benue State authorities about those cows? And then is there anything going on in Nasarawa State now to ensure that they don't move further or they are apprehended? Because if you say they are currently there now.
Yes, the owners of the cows will come in contact with a good number of them. And that happens when we arrest, when we apprehend the cows. And of course, the small boy who tends to the cows will now report to the owner. And the owner comes up, and it is the owner that we deal with. He's the one who pays the fine. And so, yes, it is true. We've been in touch with the owners, and we've been preaching to them. The Benue State has nothing against the breeding of cows. But we are saying that the best international practice in breeding cows is ranching, using ranches. And a good number of them are buying the idea. Don't forget also that the cow breeders are not only Fulani people. We have Benue indigenes who also breed cows. I'll give you a typical example. The first cousin of Senator David Mark, former Senate President, Shifa Katu, breeds cows in Otukpo. And of recent, you will not believe it, he has a ranch. So when the cows swayed out of his ranch and were seen in the open grazing, they were apprehended. And he came to Makodi and we made him to pay the fine. So the thing is working very well. I am surprised that it's taking such a long time for other states in the Federation to borrow the leaf from Benue. What is happening in Oyo and Ondo states today would not be happening if they had come on board with us in 2016 or thereafter. I think this is a national issue and should be looked at dispassionately by all sectors of Nigeria. We are not against anybody. As for Nasarawa State, I cannot speak for Nasarawa State, but I know interfacing with them and interacting with them, I know that they are equally concerned. I told you earlier that the governor told his people that Benue has a law on against open grazing, and they should not use Nasarawa State as a launching pad. Because what used to happen in the past is that they would cross over the river Benue. You know, cows swim very well. And then they come to Benue and graze, and we begin to run after them. Then they cross the river again and go back to Nasarawa State. And they've been looking at taking Nasarawa State to be a safe haven. But this is what we must stop, because there has to be synergy. Yes, and concerted efforts between the states.
Okay, as we wind down now, any moment from now, two issues. First is Benue State offering ranches, because you talked about that idea. Are you offering ranches to the herders who might want to, key into it? Are you saying, well, we have ranches so you can register and pay for it? And also, what happens to those cows now? I mean, numbering over 300 of them that have been apprehended, as you said. So what happens to the cows?
No, once the fines are paid, they are released to them. I think they must have been handled already, because over a week now. So there's no issue there. With regards to the state having state ranches, let me take you back to history. Long ago, the federal government of Nigeria had established ranches. A major one was in Mokwa, in Kwara State. There's a major one somewhere in Ogun State. And we had a very big ranch in Zaria. And they were run by the state. Even Benue State, during the regime of Aperako, had a major ranch here in a place called Kogi. And they were running very well. But of course, as you very well know, most government concerns fell by the wayside. And not only the cattle ranch of Benue State, but also the cattle ranches built by the federal government fell by the wayside. Simply because in modern days, government businesses have not been successful. And so government decided to hands off. And therefore, sorry?
If you don't mind, because we're really running out of time now. Well, you said that this is a national problem. And true to type, because a good number of states have been raising issues about, Fulani herdsmen, but then many people always ascribe the Fulani end to them. What are you expecting the president to do, since it is a national problem? What are you expecting the president or the federal government to do about this matter?
Well, the president has been doing a lot, especially through the vice president. If you remember, there is the new way of looking at producing meat for Nigeria. And a lot has been done in this respect. So much of planning but we are waiting to see how it is practiced. Of course, a number of issues came up that the people rose against, like the Ruga, for example. But if it comes to doing the transformation of animal business, which the federal government has embarked upon, that will be acceptable to Nigerians, provided they are done through ranching. And let me tell you also that animal breeding is a private enterprise. It's a private business like all other businesses. Government can only provide the enabling environment. But government cannot go ahead and say, look, let me do your business for you. And that is why we're a little bit skeptical about the government establishing ranches and asking people to come and breed their cattle in. But anybody who wants to breed his cattle can come to Benue and ask for, if he finds a piece of land, he can ask for it, and we'll give him a certificate of occupancy, and then he can build his ranch and tend to his cattle there.
All right, Your Excellency.
This is what we...
Okay, well, we do thank you for your time this morning, Your Excellency Blessing Abono, Deputy Governor of Benue State. Well, we've got one more matter coming up in just a moment. Stay with us. We've got Mr. Kingsley Fanwo, the Commissioner for Information, Kogi State, joining us now to give his perspective, because all over the dailies, all over the place. Yesterday, the PTF, you did hear that much, declaring Kogi a high-risk area, asking people, be careful if you have to go to Kogi State, because they say, Kogi, no testing happening, not complying, and putting the lives of people in danger. Good morning, Mr. Fanwo. Thank you for joining us today. How do you respond to what is all over the place now as a result of the PTF's submission yesterday?
Good morning, and Mr. Chamberlain, and thanks for having me. We also heard the declaration by the almighty PTF concerning Kogi State. I think as far as we are concerned, it is unacceptable, because we believe such statements are too reckless for a government agency tasked with the responsibility of ensuring public health. So it is reckless, it is irresponsible, it is unacceptable, and there are no empirical facts to support such a malicious statement by the PTF. We have a lot of ours and let Nigerians know the true situation of things in Nigeria and in Kogi State. When they declare the case of our respected imam from Kaba, that he had COVID-19, he was taken to Abuja, also was tested positive of COVID-19. We raised the alarm that the son had been the one running errands and buying things from the market for the father. They said it's no more the son, that it is now the sister. Unknown to them that the sister does not even live in Kogi State. She was staying in Suleja. And then later, they gave the sister a clean bill of health. So all this confusion are the reasons why Kogi is not subscribing to all the games being played by the NCDC and the PTF. So to come out and make such a statement against Kogi State, as far as we are concerned, is irresponsible and very reckless, and it is not going to be accepted by the government and the good people of Kogi State.
They also quoted the governor when they said that he was quoted to have said, well, don't take the vaccine. It's there to kill us. Remember what happened in Kano. If you're going to do that, it's at your own risk. And they thought with those kind of comments that they have no choice than to warn people not to go to Kogi State.
I hope you would watch the video again. What the governor said was to advise the people It is the choice of individuals to decide whether they want to turn. It is that of every individual. Was something that was valid. Has anybody come out to say nothing like that happened in Kano with polio vaccines by the same producer of the current vaccine that they are banding about? Okay, even if you are complaining about vaccine, as the PTF, have they brought their vaccines to Nigeria? With all the debates, with all the contentions, with all the confusions, have they brought any vaccine to Nigeria? And you could hear one of the commentators on Sunrise this morning questioning the responsibility, fiscal responsibility of the PTF, and also questioning the humongous amount of money that they claimed to have spent on COVID-19. If Kogi is part of Nigeria, there is no doubt about that. They came to Kaba to do contact tracing. Samples were collected that were taken to Abuja. Where are the results of those samples? You said there are 5 cases in Kogi State, and for the last 1 year, you've not added any case to it. There were tests that were done. Kogi has been carrying out tests. We also have a law. We have a law in place in Kogi State. We don't test asymptomatic people. We don't just go on the street to catch anybody and say, come and test for COVID-19. As far as we are concerned, it is a waste of resources, and it is part of the maladministration of the entire process that we have been complaining about. So we are, as a state, tests are ongoing in the state. We have the best infrastructure.
Oh dear. Well, Mr. Fanwo.
For the state. When we came out to talk about the rapid test kits, because it was coming from Kogi State, NCDC and what the world is doing. So it is not true that Kogi is doing nothing about COVID-19. We know there is COVID-19. What we don't subscribe to is the commercial overnight by deceiving Nigerians to think it is a disease that is killing more than others. That is not true, and we never subscribe to that.
Okay, I mean the major part of that statement, which the governor made, was that they want to use the vaccines to introduce the disease that will kill you and us. And I'm quoting verbatim, and he ended by saying, God forbid, before he gave the Pfizer example. But, you know, a lot of issues, really. So, first, I don't think there's any state that would chase people to catch them on the streets to get them tested. Yes, they test based on people coming forward to test. Just a moment. Let me just put this to you so you can answer roundly. So, no state actually goes around catching people to test. When you talk about empirical data, the PTF said categorically that Kogi State is not reporting at all. So if you say that the PTF does not have data, what data does Kogi State have? Because you have more to prove here. You're trying to say, well, there's no COVID-19 cases in the state. So how about you test a large chunk of your population to indeed show empirically that you don't have those cases? Because as it stands, you have more to prove. Have you done that?
It is not even supported by science for you to just be handpicking people and be testing them. Anyone who has shown symptoms in Kogi State has been tested by the state government and also by NCDC officials. After the face-off, when we had issues with their own protocols, because when you go to a place, when you come from a place of high risk to a place of low risk, you are expected to quarantine and also be isolated so that you also be tested to know that you are not even carrying the virus. They said no, that they will not be able to submit their officials for that. But we saw that in Wuhan a few weeks ago. And it is now a global standard that when you are moving from a place of high risk to a place of low risk, you have to submit yourself to all of these protocols. Now, they came after that face-off. They came back to Kogi State. We welcomed them. They worked with our people for 1 month. So where are the results declared for the 1 month that they worked with our people? They took a lot of samples and all that and carried out a lot of tests. Where are the results? So it means that even the data that they are giving Nigeria is unreliable because they've not come out to tell us till date that these are the samples we carried, these are the samples we collected, these are the tests we've conducted on those samples, and these are the results. They have not come out to tell us that. So if the governor is saying they are trying to kill us, Did they kill our people in Kano through the polio vaccine? So these are the issues. We should deal with the issues directly.
Honorable Commissioner, one of the things that was also said, which you have tried to disprove now, you may want to confirm, one of the things that the PTF had said from the very beginning is rapid testing is not as reliable as the PCR testing. I don't know if you want to very quickly respond to that on where Kogi stands on that case. And secondly, part of what the PTF said yesterday, just one moment, part of what the PTF said yesterday is that there is no testing facility, and even if you fall sick, there is no isolation center, and they don't even acknowledge that the disease exists. Are you now saying that the disease exists in Kogi?
Okay, thank you. Let me start from the rapid test kit. They said rapid test kit was not acceptable. Today, that is what is being used the world over, including NCDC and the PTF. That is what is being used. PCR is not reliable, and over 70% of the results have been discovered to be so unreliable. So everybody has gone back to the rapid test kit. And we are also using the gene expert machine, which is acceptable the world over, along with our rapid test kit. If they say there are no isolation centers, that's funny. Our isolation center is one of the best in the country, in Kogi State. And we are carrying out tests. And the governor never said there was no COVID-19. What he said was that we are killing our economy, we are driving fear into our people, we are commercializing the entire fight against the pandemic, and it should stop our healthcare facility, our healthcare infrastructure. And that has always been his position. So he never said there was no COVID-19. And I said it earlier, Kogi is part of Nigeria. If PTF and NCDC are saying that people should not go to Kogi State because it's a high-risk place, where is the statistics to support their claims? They don't have any statistics to support their claims. The death rate in Kogi in 2020 is less than what we have in 2019. So it is not like some people are hiding the ailments and people are dying secretly. There was nothing like that. And you will see that the last quarter of 2020, Kogi was declared as the state with the highest influx of foreign investment in the entire country. And that shows that the state is healthy, the people of the state is healthy, the state is safe.
Mr.
But
Fowle,
the statement is targeted at the economy. The statement by the PTF is
Mr. Fowle, just a
economy
moment.
of
We're running out of time now, but I mean, that talk about the investment, it's announcements, not actual investment. You might want to look at that data again. But on a final note, you've said that Kogi is a part of Nigeria, and you know that the president just signed the COVID-19 regulations 2021, which talks about maintaining 2 meters between persons, no more than 50 persons per gathering, no more than 50% capacity, and of course, wearing of the face mask. Will Kogi State be enforcing the COVID-19 regulations?
I want to say that we are the first government in the country that procured a face mask in thousands and distributed to our people. Government officials personally donated towards this.
The COVID-19 regulations. I was hoping for a yes or no. Pardon me, I was hoping for a yes or no. Would you be enforcing the regulations signed by the president?
A lot of organizations and institutions also donated face masks that we distributed. You would say that the governor signed the executive order a day to the time that the governor, as the chairman of the mobilization committee of the APC for women and children and people living with disabilities to come and join the party, he was to move around the entire country. But immediately that was signed, he needed no one to tell him that going to these places will attract crowd, and he immediately stepped that down. That is to show that he respects the constitution of the country, and he respects the healthcare need of the people of the country. So there's nothing wrong with Kogi State. They are only banding the figures about to be.
Right, well, apologies there for the quality of that audio, but we do.
Able to.
Well, we have to wrap it up at this point. Unfortunately, the signal is not so clear at the moment, but we do thank you for your thoughts this morning. Kingsley Fao is the Commissioner for Information in Kogi State. So there you go. That is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain. So
I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.